Hello and greetings from Iceland, but it's time for an earthquake update since things are still hectic around here, despite the fact that seismic activity has decreased a bit. But that's not the big issue today. It should rather be the locations of the earthquakes and other trends we have been seeing for the last days, or seismic activity at 4 locations in total. So let's move to the map in order to get the bigger pictures. First we have the lava intrusion we have been following as it moved from Mount Keilir to Mount Fagradalsfjall, where we have expected an eruption for days. Magma is accumulating at as little as 2 kilometers depth now, and during the Christmas everything looked as if an eruption in Geldingadalur was imminent. But then we saw 3 new earthquake zones appear. The first one was near Grindavik, exactly on the old fissure I have been mentioning before, and they were getting rather larger for a while, but luckily the swarm faded out quite fast. But what came as an even more surprise was the seismic activity on the Krísuvík volcanic system. And we have been seeing earthquake swarms there at 2 different locations in the last 7 days. And you can see both of them here. The location west from Keilir is not unusual, but the smaller earthquake swarm is very unusual, or just by Lake Klevavatn. And it's hard for me to say if it is a part of the so-called Sulphur Mountain volcanic system, but it is for sure on the boundaries between the Sulphur Mountain system and the Krísuvík volcano system. We are over now. So I'm going to use the chance now to bring you as close as I can with the footage I already have. But the largest earthquake struck here yesterday, magnitude 3.9, and again today, magnitude 3.7, and we have the Sulphur Mountains in the background. And at the same time, the earthquake swarm under Mount Fagradalsfjall has almost faded out. And if it is so that the earthquakes are in fact within the Sulphur Mountain system, we are talking about movements in 3 volcanic systems. And in the Sulphur Mountains, we are getting very close to where we get the largest earthquakes on the peninsula, very close to the city. And you can actually see the city from here in the upper left corner, just below the Sulphur Mountains. And the news from those events gets even stranger looking at the first statement from scientists. When those earthquakes started, they said at first that these were earthquakes triggered by the land uplift under Mount Fagradalsfjall. But looking at how localized those earthquake swarms are, and the fact that they continued even stronger after the worst was over under Mount Fagradalsfjall, I just have to ask myself if we are seeing the Krísuvík volcanic system wake up beside the unrest under Mount Fagradalsfjall. And Mount Fagradalsfjall has always been considered to be a separate volcanic system. And we can see Mount Fagradalsfjall. And in the foreground we have the Krísuvík volcanic system. And that system is perhaps the worst case scenario. Not only is it known for sending lava streams to the sea on both sides of the peninsula, north and south, but let's look at the system and the mountains associated to it from Lake Klevavatn, or how close to the city it is. And it is a volcanic system that has shown great seismic activity in the recent decades. The system that we have always feared the most, for the obvious reason that its fissure swarm stretches all the way into the capital. But I do have to say though that those are only earthquake fissures, and it's considered to be highly unlikely that an eruption would take place within the city. But at our doorsteps, that is another story. And this is how lava from the Krísuvík system looks at our doorsteps as we drive into the city from the Reykjavík peninsula. And I need to remind you that I recently made a video about this volcanic system because I suspected that it might become useful soon, but maybe not so very soon actually. So I'm leaving a link for that one because it contains a lot of footage from the Krísuvík volcanic system, especially around Lake Klevavatn, where the earthquakes are now. But now I'm taking you for a drive right over the other fissure swarm. And there are craters and fissures all around there. It's very burned land. And I love this place. It's only 20 minutes away from Reykjavík, but the landscape is more as I had traveled to the moon or something like that. Some of the largest earthquakes occurred on this mountain ridge in front of us, but there are mighty powerful volcanoes there. So I'm going to move over the ridge and take a look back from the other side, from the drone. But the sun was, however, teasing me a bit this day, but at least it gives you an idea about the location and how it looks. And talking about drones, I do have bad news, miserable news. But as I was photoshooting this Christmas, in icy conditions at a rather high altitude, going after shots that it's very hard to get, only this time of year, I had an engine failure and the drone fell from the skies. And it has ceased to be. It is no more, but the memory card was okay. So, this is a major setback that I'm dealing with now, but then drone flying is always a certain risk, but it's bad timing for me though, and I hope it won't affect my channel too much. At least I have the footage to show you around before something happens. And looking at the latest info from our scientists today, it is noteworthy that the air traffic warning has been raised to code yellow in Krísuvík, but not over Mount Fagradalsfjall, where we have so far officially expected the new eruption to occur. And one of our top experts said also today that Santa Claus, that made his own prediction on my channel just a few days ago, might be right. It's more likely to see an eruption in a matter of days than weeks. But when it comes to those new locations, all disclosure of information is extremely cautious, or should we rather say it's zero information, which is odd because the flight warning system expects an eruption on the Krísuvík volcanic system. But officially, we Icelanders are waiting for an eruption in Mount Fagradalsfjall. So, something is not as it should be. Maybe we are not getting all the bad news because it's Christmas, but as for the topography, we would most likely see a lava flow both south and north of the peninsula in case of an eruption at the location where the earthquake swarm has been bothering us for the last days, or a similar scenario as in the 12th century when the last eruption took place there. And then, it should, however, not surprise us. We have been told all the time that when one of the volcanic systems on the peninsula makes a move, the others will follow. So looking at the next years or decades, I still believe it was a huge mistake to plan a new residential area over a lava field where lava has flowed 4 times during historic times. And it is about time that we Icelanders start to talk more about the worst case scenario and how to handle it when and if that time comes. And I will continue to post updates as needed from this first real winter snow we are having here in northern Iceland. And with that, I'm sending you best regards from the snowy and shaky volcano island, Iceland.